All right, today we're jumping into a digital time machine. We're going way back to the wild early days of the internet to unravel one of its most bizarre and honestly most unforgettable mysteries. We're talking about the time cube.
So I want you to just start with this question. Just think about it for a second. What if that most basic fact of our lives, the 24-hour day, was totally wrong? A complete fabrication taught to us as part of some global cover-up.
And what if the real truth was something way, way stranger? What if, as you're sitting here right now, you're actually living through 4 distinct, separate days, all at the exact same time? This, right here, is the wild central claim of the time cube.
So, an idea this bizarre, where on earth does it even start? Well, it all comes down to this one core concept: 4 days in one. Let's try to unpack the idea that made this thing an absolute legend of internet weirdness.
So here's the official breakdown. The time cube was billed as a pseudoscientific theory of everything. It was unleashed on the world back in 1997 by a man named Otis Eugene Ray. And his whole argument was that our single 24-hour day, that's just an illusion. The reality, he claimed, is that there are 4 24-hour days happening all at once.
But a theory this out there could only have come from a mind that was just as unique. So let's meet the man who called himself the wisest man on Earth, the one and only creator of the time cube.
And this quote, wow, it just says it all, doesn't it? Gene Ray didn't just think he was smart. In his own mind, he was a godlike being with superior intelligence. For him, this wasn't arrogance. It was just a fact.
Now here's where it gets even more complicated. In his own writings, Ray freely admitted that a psychiatrist once diagnosed him with schizophrenia. But to him, this wasn't a sign of illness. No, he saw it as proof that his mind was so advanced that normal people literally couldn't comprehend his genius.
And Gene Ray's journey with this idea was, well, it was a long one. He launched his infamous website in 1997, and from there, he actually took his theory on the road. He ended up giving lectures at prestigious places like MIT and Georgia Tech, all organized by curious students. He kept pushing this idea right up until he died in 2015.
Okay, so this is the part where we try, to wrap our heads around the quote-unquote logic of the time cube. How in the world do you get to a 96-hour day? All right, so according to Ray, it works like this. First, you have to forget everything you know. Instead, imagine that the Earth has 4 corner time points all happening at once. You've got midday, midnight, sunrise, and sunset. Now, as the Earth spins, each of those 4 corners travels through the location of the other 3. In his mind, this process creates not 1 day but 4 simultaneous 24-hour days, adding up to 96 hours in a single rotation.
Right, so you're probably thinking, why didn't my physics teacher ever mention this? Well, Ray had an answer for that, of course. He believed that the entire academic and scientific world was in on a massive conspiracy to actively hide the truth of the time cube from all of us. And as you can imagine, this set up a massive showdown between the time cube and, well, reality itself. Let's take a look at how the actual scientific community reacted to all this.
Look at this. The difference is just staggering. On one side, you have Ray's world, where academia is a lie and anyone who disagrees with him is stupid and evil. And on the other side, you have the complete and total consensus of science, calling it untestable, meaningless pseudoscience that breaks every known law of physics. And the media? Yeah, they didn't pull any punches either. John C. Dvorak, writing for PC Magazine at the time, famously called the Time Cube website the #1 crazy site on the internet, and basically just called it all endless babble. But it's really important to be clear here. This wasn't all just harmless, kooky fun. The website wasn't just confusing. The sources are very clear that it was also filled with deeply racist and homophobic writings, which shows a much darker, much more hateful element to this whole phenomenon. So that brings us to the biggest question of all, right? If the theory was total nonsense and parts of it were genuinely offensive, then why are we still talking about it today?
how did this thing become an internet legend?
Well, the answer is, it kind of failed upwards. Even though it was completely rejected by science, it found a different kind of success. It became a piece of internet folklore, this perfect, bizarre time capsule, from when the web felt like this weird, undiscovered country.
And you can see its fingerprints all over early internet culture. For people into strange conspiracies, it's an online classic. Its sheer weirdness is what led those students at MIT and Georgia Tech to invite him to speak. It even inspired an award-winning documentary. It just kept embedding itself deeper into the story of the internet.
And maybe nothing, nothing, sums up the whole Time Cube saga better than this. Ray publicly offered $10,000 to any professor who could prove his theory wrong, and nobody ever accepted the challenge. Not because they couldn't, but because, scientifically, there was literally nothing there to even argue with.
And that really leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it? The TimeCube website is gone, Gene Ray is gone, but the story is still here. So why is it that in this massive, ever-expanding universe of the internet, sometimes it's the strangest, most baseless ideas that end up sticking with us the longest?